For an all-out breakdown of the NBA Conference Finals is Jared Weiss, who's a writer for the sports news website The Athletic. Jared, hello. Good evening to you there.
Good to see you, Andre.
Good to see you again. Thank you for joining us again on that first episode we did a few weeks back. But okay, here we are. 4 teams. You got Milwaukee and Atlanta in the East, and you got the Clips and the Suns in the West. Are these the 4 teams you expected in the conference finals? Because I got to be honest, I didn't expect. We're witnessing the Suns against the Clips. Well, the Clips maybe, and then the Bucks and the Hawks in the East.
I think coming into the playoffs, I don't know if you expected any of these teams to make the conference finals. It is definitely an upset and a surprise. I think Phoenix probably is the least surprising of them all, considering that Chris Paul has generally been available, which is crazy to say because he's missed a bunch of games and got hurt and all that.
You're right.
But the fact that the Clippers are here with Kawhi and Leonard getting hurt is one of the craziest things I've seen in a long time, except that we see Atlanta here somehow upsetting a 1 seed that was a juggernaut the whole year, somehow winning a Game 7 with Trae Young having a horrible shooting night. I understand Milwaukee just barely getting by Brooklyn with Kevin Durant missing that last shot at the end of one of the great performances of ever. But how on earth is Atlanta here? I have no idea.
Okay, since you're there, let's talk about the East first. This matchup, you got the Bucks and the Hawks. And you said, how in the world is Trae Young and Atlanta now in the Eastern Conference Finals? Well, both coming off a 7-game series where, of course, arguably both teams, I think, were seen as the underdogs. Well, if Brooklyn was complete. This time around, who do you think has the edge here? Do you have Giannis and the more experienced Milwaukee team have the edge against Trae Young and Atlanta?
Yeah, Milwaukee should have the edge. I think first and foremost, they just have a great matchup defensively against Trae Young and Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday is the smartest point guard defender in the NBA. He's very well balanced, which is really important against Trae Young because Trae Young is someone that likes to hit you with quick bursts so he can draw fouls on you. And I think Drew is just great with his hands, great with his feet. So I think that just matches up in a way that Ben Simmons and Matisse Thybulle, who are great defenders for Philadelphia, weren't quite as good at it as Drew Holiday. So right there, that's a huge part of the series. And then you think about who on Atlanta is going to guard Giannis. We'll probably see John Collins. Is DeAndre Hunter, is Cam Reddish, are any of those guys going to get healthy? Can Danilo Gallinari guard him? I don't really know. Maybe Clint Capella is going to be guarding him. Maybe Clint Capella can pull that off because Clint Capella doesn't really have to guard him out on the perimeter that much. But either way, there's no clear answer for Atlanta on how they match up with Giannis. And we saw it with Milwaukee's win in Game 7 that Giannis is going to keep coming and he's going to keep coming. And if you're not an astute enough defender to stop him, he's eventually going to break through. Okay,
so what can they do to stun Giannis here and pull off another upset like what they did against Philly? Because like what you said, you can't think of a matchup clearly for Nate McMillan and Atlanta to guard Giannis once he just goes with a full head of steam. So how do they stop Giannis and the Bucks here? Do they focus on Giannis? Because, this Bucks team is different from the past few years now. You have Drew Holiday. Middleton is also coming of age, that perimeter game. And then, you got pieces off the bench. So how do the Hawks pull off another big one here if they want to reach the NBA Finals?
I think you're going to see the Hawks try to double team Giannis a lot. They're going to try to pack the paint with defenders. And then when Giannis tries to kick it out, they're going to have to run to the other side of the court and try to get a hand in the face for guys that are shooting the ball. That's how Milwaukee's been winning. When Milwaukee has good shooting nights, they tend to win because Giannis sucks in so many defenders and is such a distraction. And so it's really about how tough can you be on him so that you don't give him enough room to get that foot into the paint where he can start spinning and Euro stepping and all that kind of stuff. Can you give him enough pressure without fouling to force that? And then how disciplined are you about then recovering when he's able to pass it to another shooter?
Well, one thing's for sure. The Atlanta Hawks fans will be counting down whenever Giannis when he steps on the line again and goes to the free throw line. How many games do you think will this series be? Do you see this going into Game 7? Or do you have the Bucks winning it in 5 or 6?
let's say Bucks and 6, because that's the fun phrase everyone loves to say. But I do think Atlanta has been so incredibly competitive, and they've done a great job of finding the right guy that's hot every single night. They've really give Nate McMillan credit. He's been so good at doing that. And Trae Young has been good at doing that. Trae Young's been good at finding the right teammates and really getting them going. And so I think that's enough for them to keep the series competitive. And I mean, we just saw how great they were against Joel Embiid and that supporting cast. Giannis in Milwaukee is not drastically different than what Philadelphia is, even though Ben Simmons was such an offensive liability in that series.
Oh yeah. That's a whole different episode to talk about if we're going to talk about Ben Simmons and the future of Ben with that franchise. Moving on now to the West. The Suns, of course, game 1 yesterday with a 1-0 lead over the Clippers. Both teams missing crucial players. Of course, the Suns without Chris Paul and the Clips without Kawhi. How did the Suns get this win? And it seemed really pretty easy for them. The pace was in their favor. Of course, so we'll talk about D-Book in a bit, but your overall assessment of that Game 1 victory for the Suns?
It was awesome. I mean, this team is just so much fun to watch. Devin Booker, yeah. I kind of think it's ridiculous that people keep calling him underrated. I feel like most people in the NBA recognize how great he is. But frankly, he's playing at a level that's higher than what he's done in the past. Because it's frankly harder what he's doing now at this point of the season compared to the past. And to open up the series with Chris Paul out and have a 40-point triple-double that's special stuff. That's historic stuff right there. And he's fun to watch. That's what I like about Devin Booker the most is he's just a super creative player. He's a very different type of player than a lot of guys out there. I think so many players are very formulaic. Like look at James Harden, who's a very, very like methodical, mechanical type player. It's all the similar types of three-pointers, similar types of layups. What makes Devin Booker special, he's kind of like Chris Paul in this way, in that he takes a fully extended jump shot from every single inch of the court. He will drive to the lane, be 3 feet from the basket, and he'll still raise up like it's a normal jump shot. And he still hits it with a soft touch. And so when you're guarding Devin Booker, you have no idea where his spot is going to be. Most great NBA scorers, they have like 10 spots on the floor where you know they're going to get to a certain shot. Every single square foot of that court is Devin Booker's spot.
Well, yeah, the perimeter game of D-Book looking like Kobe at times, too, with all due respect. You mentioned Chris Paul already. Of course, Kawhi most likely out for the rest of the series. But Chris Paul is coming back. So do you see the Suns dominating the series and probably wrapping it up and sweeping the Clips once Chris Paul returns?
I'll never rule out this Clippers team after the last 2 games I saw. I mean, I was at that Game 6 watching Terrence Mann score 39 points, which was just so insane. The Clippers team really has that fight in them, and give credit to Ty Lue, one of the best coaches in the NBA. I think that people didn't recognize that because he had LeBron for so long, but he's showing it with Kawhi. He's showing it without Kawhi, that he is just such a smart coach. He knows how to adjust his game plan to really figure out how to attack a team's vulnerabilities. We saw what he did in that Game 6 where Rudy Gobert was just not coming out of the paint to defend a lot of these three-point shots. And Ty Lue just kept getting the ball kicked out to that corner where Gobert just wasn't closing out to that shooter. And they got so many open threes out because of that. The Clippers are a little bit of a streaky shooting team, but when they're on, they're a lights-out shooting team. And they're going to get a couple wins probably in the series just because of that.
So you see the Suns in 6 as well? Or do you think this will go the distance?
I think if Chris Paul is out for Game 2, I believe. So we'll see how long it takes for him to get back. But if he misses Game 3, I definitely could see the Clippers grabbing 1 or 2 of these, and it could go back to Phoenix evened up 2-2. Honestly, I mean the Clippers, they played so well at home that I just wouldn't rule out them getting a couple wins in this.
Well, Jared, before I let you go quickly, who do you see? Who do you in the finals? Just pick 2 teams.
I think the championship is going to be Chris Paul leading the Suns over the Milwaukee Bucks, which is blowing my mind to say it. I've always wanted to see Chris Paul get that championship because he's one of my favorite players to watch ever.
Same, yeah.
It really seems like the momentum is in their favor.
All right, Jared. Always a pleasure talking to you about the NBA. Stay safe there. I know you're in LA right now. Go do your thing, man, and we'll speak to you again soon. Thank you. That was Jared Weiss, a writer for the sports news website, The Athletic.